Alrighty, welcome to the Elite 2 podcast. This is our first episode ever, which is
Ever.
exciting. Um, I'm Elite 2 member Brandon, and I'm with Logan here. How are you today?
Elite 2 member Logan here. We need to figure out what our teams would be at some point as well.
What do you mean our
We
team?
are Elite
Oh,
2 members.
our Elite 4 teams if we run the Elite 4?
Yeah, because we're Elite 2 members, so we have to be twice as strong. There's only two of us.
So instead of level, 55, we'd be level 70?
Yeah.
Something.
No level 49 Dragonites here.
Oh, there'd be plenty of Gyarados, though. And my team would be basically be Lance, but replace the Dragonites with Gyaradoses, and that's my team.
There you go. That's better. You'd hack in the Dragon type thing on Gyarados.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. And then I think I would want to like incorporate. I really like Agatha's team with. I think didn't she have like Gengar and Haunter and like. I don't know. Wasn't she a Gen 2? Back my Gen 2 boomer age here. Gen 2
No,
Ghost.
that was Gen 1. Agatha was Gen 1.
Agatha was Gen 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it was. She had a Gengar. She had. Oh, man. I have to look back at her. Hold on. Look up her original team.
I'd also like everyone to notice my Hufflepuff cup.
That is pretty legendary. I just have a normal Hydro Flask, which is not as exciting. But
So.
let me see. Let me see.
I mean,
Agatha-
I can't do anything without my Gyaradoses. I mean, this is like right next to my computer every day of my life. So I don't know if anybody can see that with my
Yeah,
background.
there it is.
But this is like what's right next to my desk every day. So there's
For you audio listeners, that is a wonderful Gyarados on the screen.
yes, and that Gyarados accompanies me through every endeavor on my computer. Okay, so what's new? What have you been doing? What have you been playing?
I have been playing a lot of Generation 5 Pokemon White. It's been so much fun.
You
I
have
cannot
been
wait.
now? You've been playing through
Yeah,
White?
I'm almost done. Yeah, I'm almost done.
See, I'm lucky enough to where, so right about I'll give you our listeners some of my Pokemon background. Right around Gen 4, so right before Gen 4 is when I got into high school, when I started being involved in all the things you do in high school. It was also the time when, for some reason, I felt like Pokemon wasn't cool anymore. And so I stopped playing right around Gen 4. And so when I got out of college and I started working and I jumped back into Pokemon, which Logan has a lot to do with that. When I jumped back into Pokemon, I started with Let's Go, right? Let's Go Eevee is the one I had. And that got me, because I'm such a Gen 1er, it's sickening. And then the nice thing about it is I jumped back in at the perfect time to play the remakes in order of the games that I never played. So I never played Gen 4, and then our favorite game, BDSP, came out, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and now I'm going to get to play the Gen 5 remakes whenever those come out, hashtag Gen 5 remakes, and then 6, 7, moving forward. So I'm lucky in that regard.
Yeah. No, I mean, I miss playing Let's Go a lot. And speaking of Gen 1, I did pull up Agatha's team. It's going to be hilarious.
Okay,
This
you
is
pulled up Agatha's team. Okay.
Here's what Agatha's team was. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
She led with the Gengar.
Okay.
And then it went Ghastly, Haunter, Gengar.
That is the most Gen 1. You know, it's so funny. Like, if you look at Gen 2, like, okay, perfect example. Let's just talk about Faulkner for 2 minutes, okay? You roll into Violet City in Gen 2, and you're like, I'm in Gen 2. You know, I've seen Sentret, I've seen Bellsprout. Bellsprout was Gen 1, but I've seen Sentret at least. So I've seen some Gen 2 Pokemon. And Gen 2, let's see, what are the new bird types in Gen 2?
Noctowl.
Okay, so you see Hoothoot on the first route, right? And you roll into Faulkner, and you're like, oh, Gen 2, first gym leader, and it's like, Pidgeotto. It's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, why? You couldn't have used the Pokemon I saw in Route 1, the Hoothoot that I saw in Route 1, you couldn't have had I mean, okay, have a Pidgey, whatever. But then have a Hoothoot and have a Noctowl.
Well, was it the same thing in the original Gen 2? I haven't played Crystal in a while.
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. I
I
don't
know
know.
in Heart Gold it's like that.
Yeah, it might be the same. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they used a lot of Gen 1 Mons in Gen 2, which is not. I mean, originally, I think, if my history is correct, I think that Pokemon felt that Gen 1 and Gen 2 would be the only games. And then they saw
Yeah.
the popularity of it and they chose to build Gen 3. So, really, the two games were kind of meant to be one game, and I think that's why a lot of the gym leaders just held on to the Gen 1 Mons, because they probably made them around the same time as like, you know, games that could just go back to back.
Yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be it was supposed to be the finale, the sequel and the finale of the whole thing, and then they realized that it was a moneymaker, so they kept going.
Mm.
But it was originally made to be. That's why Kanto was in it, because they thought it was going to be the penultimate Pokemon game.
Right.
But it
All right.
wasn't, because we're still here.
Why don't you tell since this is our first episode, why don't you tell the viewers kind of your Pokemon, or the watchers or listeners your Pokemon history, and maybe what your favorite Pokemon is?
Yeah, so I play. So my first Pokemon game was I think it was Fire Red, and then I played Sapphire. So that was my Gen 3. It was my introductory generation, and then I played, which obviously Gen 1 being Fire Red. I think I played the most of Fire Red because I think I played through Sapphire once and did not restart it for the longest time. But
yeah, you came in like right. You came in like right when I was leaving.
Yeah. And then Gen 4 is my bread and butter. I spent more time in Gen 4 than any other generation, period. I played through Diamond so many times, which is hysterical why everyone was complaining about PTSD. But I played so much Diamond, it was ridiculous. I still miss my Torterra from that game. I don't know where it is anymore. I know I traded because I was never like the kid who had the starter Pokemon over leveled and just played through the whole game that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I did that.
Oh, that's me. That's me all the way. I like the easy route through the game. I want the story, and I don't want to be challenged. Oh my gosh, I overleveled my Pokemon way too much. But sorry, continue.
But I had a Torterra that was completely overleveled. I distinctly remember it evolving right after the city with the daycare, which was in Diamond. That's after the second gym because remember in the remakes, you skip. So you do the rock gym, and then you do Eterna City with the grass gym, and then you travel all the way to the ghost gym, but the ghost gym leader isn't there, so you have to keep traveling up to get to the next one. The gym order in Gen 4 is horrible.
That's the path of death in that game.
It's such a slog, but I remember my starter went to the final evolution like halfway after like the second gym, which is hilarious. But love those games. I played the crap out of Black and White too, because Black and White. Now, see, what people forget is there was a long time between Black and White 2. So Black and White was 2011, and Black and White 2 was 2013. So there was a 2-year gap between those two games, and I played the crap out of White, and then I got White 2 and didn't play a whole lot of it, and then I kind of like didn't play Pokemon for a little bit, and then I got Omega Ruby on the 2DS, so I played the crap out of Omega Ruby, and then I got Gen 7, and I've been playing Generations ever since. But my favorite Pokemon, it flip flops a lot between a couple, but I always go back to Charizard because I'm a I don't know, you can say like generic. It's like saying Lucario is your favorite Pokemon.
The Roman Reigns of Pokemon.
My favorite Pokemon will still be Mega Charizard Y.
Not Mega Charizard X. Mega Charizard
because that's
Y.
what the normies would pick.
The normies.
Everyone who watched Pokemon Origins would pick Pokemon. It would pick Charizard X because Charizard X got the highlight of Pokemon Origins. But I would pick Y because it just looks like an ancient Charizard. It looks
right.
awesome.
Looks like it would. It looks like something you would find in Pokemon Scarlet at the end with all of the like Fluttermane and Iron. The Great Tusk and all these. Mega Charizard Y hangs out with those mons.
Oh, 100%. So yeah, I mean, I'm playing through my playthrough of White. I have 8 badges through there now, so I'm almost done. And then I'm gonna make a video about that, but almost through there.
Nice, very cool, very cool. Yeah, I think I mentioned too, but my favorite Pokemon has always been Gyarados, and I showed the Gyarados. There's no mon that will ever compete with my boy Gyarados. Although Wailord came very close. I think those two Pokemon. I tend to be a water type junkie, and so Those two Pokemon tend to be pretty close. I just think it's so fun. Like, I just picture myself in a gym and like releasing a Wailord, and then like the whole building falling down because like it just doesn't fit in the gym. You know,
your gym team would be you'd be the fourth gym leader. You'd have a Wailmer, an underleveled Wailord, and an underleveled Gyarados.
Exactly.
And there was an episode on Pokemon. I think it was on the To Be a Pokemon Master series, the last one. There was a middle episode where they were saving a Wailmer from being stuck because he jumped too high.
I remember that episode. Because I specifically looked up Wailord episodes, and I think I watched that exact one because it had Wailord in it. Yeah.
And then the Wailord got stuck too. And it was.
But okay, so here's a fun fact. I think Wailord, they made Wailord too light to be physically real. So like Wailord, hold on, let me look up Wailord's I want to look up Wailord's stats here because it's really funny. And I'm no scientist, but I think so it's 47 feet like tall or long, and it weighs 877 pounds. So like if you reduce that down, that would be like being 25 feet tall and 400 pounds. Or, even further, 12 feet tall and 200 pounds, 6 feet tall and like 95 pounds. So like they made it anorexic compared to what it should weigh.
I never thought about that.
Which is really funny. So that's my Wailord trivia for you all. It's way too light for how big it is. So that's kind of funny.
Has anyone damage calced what the base power of Heavy Slam from a Wailord would be?
I mean, I can do it right now. I mean, base power or base Heavy Slam, Wailord.
Doesn't it? Okay, it better get Heavy Slam. Let me look at the. Do I have the?
Yeah, it gets Heavy Slam. I mean, if I do nothing, if it's just a blank set with Heavy Slam, I mean, what Pokemon are you trying to damage here?
Let's see. I don't know. So what in the meta, like, what's the common? Obviously, Flutter Mane is a fairy type.
Yeah, I always use Flutter. Whenever I'm doing damage counts,
definitely getting Oko by it.
It's 102 to 120% base, and that's not even including. I mean, if you run, I don't know, if you're being a little creative and you do something like, I mean, even if you decided to be offensive, which you probably wouldn't, but if you Water Terra, and then like say the rain's up here. I mean, now it's like, I mean, you're gonna start, but really, it's just at the end of the day, you're one hit KOing Flutter Mane with Heavy Slam.
So it was 120%
The max is 120.6%. That's the max it can do. The minimum is 102%.
Switch it to Iron Hands and see how much it does, percentage wise. So we have a good comparison.
3%. No, wait. No, wait a minute.
Iron Hands using Heavy Slam on a Flutter.
Oh, Iron Hands using Heavy Slam. I see. Okay, I'm with you.
So it's 120% with the Wailord.
Iron Hands. Picolytic set. Let me do Heavy Slam. Now, I'm going to get rid of the EVs to be consistent because I had a blank set. Yeah. So, well, I mean, let's see here. I need a blank set. Let me do a blank set Iron Hands. That way. So, let me add Heavy Slam. Yeah, so blank set. Oh wait, that's Iron. I'm failing right now. Iron Hands, blank set, and Heavy Slam. Okay, I'm gonna have it now. So okay, so it also does quite a bit. It does it almost double KOs. It's like 150%. Yeah. Well, so this is my calc. Sad. This is my calc. My calc when I use the reason I love Iron Hands is unless they build the Flutter Mane to be very defensive, unless they put stuff into defense, which most people don't with Flutter Mane. Let me go back to the Iron Hands Picolytic set. One Wild Charge KOs Flutter Mane. Oh, so that's the calc I always rely on because if I lead Iron Hands and I fake out turn one and they've got Flutter, they don't expect it. One Wild Charge, guaranteed knockout on a Flutter that's not trained for defense. So it's a great counter. But anyway, I digress from my my competitive
I
world.
I just think it's sad that a 900-pound Wailord does not do as much damage with Heavy Slam as a Iron Hands does.
That's what I mean. Wailord's not heavy enough.
That sucks.
So, just to give him a sense, what other games do you play other than Pokemon? Just
Other than Pokemon, I'm playing through Spider-Man right now because I want Spider-Man 2, and I don't have Spider-Man 2 right now.
Nice.
So I'm playing through the original, just so I have a little bit of taste of it, so that when I do get Spider-Man 2, I'll have a lot more context going in. But I'll play, I play more side games probably. I enjoy Mystery Dungeon with Pokemon as well, things like that.
Cool.
I play more side games, and then other than that, I mean, kind of anything that I have on like God of War, kind of like the common stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to play a lot of the competitive games. Besides, the only competitive I ever engage in is Pokemon.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, for me, just real quick, I mean, I think I'm kind of a fan of naval games, which is weird. Like, I play a game called World of Warships quite a bit, which is a naval combat simulator. Very competitive. So I'm kind of the opposite. I like to play the competitive games. And there's Leon. Of course, yeah, I've named his cat Leon, so that tells you about how much big of a Pokemon fan he is.
He's a Generation 8 champion.
Can you make him do the pose? Yeah, I was gonna say. For the audio listeners, he's holding his cat and trying to make him do the Leon pose. So yeah, I play that. I play Sea of Thieves quite a bit. Kind of an Xbox junkie in that way, so I really like Sea of Thieves. And then Pokemon, but I also play Unite also, so I enjoy MOBAs. I used to be a big League of Legends player, and then I decided I didn't want to be yelled at anymore via chat. So I left that game pretty much for good, and now I if I want to play a MOBA, I'll play Pokemon Unite. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as what I play. All right, so let's move on here a little bit. I think we've done some intros, so hopefully you know us a little bit better. We're going to move on a little bit to some news, and I think the first thing I wanted to talk about, or I think we wanted to talk about, is whether or not we play Pokemon Sleep, and kind of what we think of Pokemon Sleep, and if we think it's going to kind of be a long-term success. So I'll let you start on Pokemon Sleep. What do you think of it? You still playing?
So,
playing? My audio listeners, I'm putting quotes in here. Playing Pokemon Sleep?
So, the purpose of Pokemon Sleep is to encourage kids to sleep more. And that's great. That's what it's for.
So Pokemon Go and Pokemon Sleep kind of work in opposite directions is what you're saying. It's like we want to walk a lot, that way we sleep more. So
we
I get it. I get the scheme. I understand the scheme now.
and get more sleep. It's like what was it? Pokemon Smile. It's like that. We want kids to brush their teeth longer and better, right?
Sure.
So that's where I see Pokemon Sleep in. Now, it's a little different because you can unlock other Pokemon, and there's like a little mechanic where you can make your Snorlax heavier to get more rare whatever. Like that's cool. There's a dex in there that you could try to fill. There's no version exclusive for Android and iOS. Like, there's no weird stuff like that. There's just it's kind of I think of it like Pokemon Quest, where like that came out on mobile, and it's like this separate thing that you could play. But honestly, I like Pokemon Quest better. I don't do Pokemon Sleep really. I mean, I was thinking about I probably should do more of it, but like I'm just not, that's just like that game is not built for me.
Yeah.
I don't really. I have the Pokeball thing, but I don't really use it.
Yeah. So I have issues with most mobile games, to be honest. I don't really like mobile games. I just really don't. I don't play many mobile games. The only mobile game that I really play a couple of them. But the only Pokemon one is Go, and the reason is because that involves some other activity, and I can make it a day, and I can have an experience. And it's real easy. I just spin my hand and catch Pokemon. So it doesn't require a whole lot of thinking. My issue with Sleep is it's like, number one, so here's my problem. You're expecting me to focus at the 2 times of the day when I don't want to focus. Okay? So like, I'm going to sleep. And it's like, oh, gotta make sure I turn the thing on, put it under my thing, get the little Pikachu, and I gotta make sure that's good to go, which, by the way, half the time, I would accidentally roll over it, and then it would reset, and then I wouldn't even get my out. But I would have to focus and be like, okay, I'm gonna set this up. Then in the morning, when I'm like getting ready for work or something, I have to somehow find time and also the energy to go, well, let me log in and let me redo my biscuits and let me change out my Pokemon and let me see where my Snorlax is and I might want to move islands and then I might want to. It's like I'm not. Ugh. I can't. It's just not. It's not as streamlined. I mean, it's a good experience in general for people. I think there are people that like it. It's not something that I really have time to give a bunch of my time to, especially at the point of the day when it wants me to look at it. I just.
Well, the art style is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at the design of a Pokemon, it looks really good.
Yeah.
Where I wish I had some 2D Pokemon in my life that looks like that.
Well, it takes us back to the old Sprite days, back when I was a wee lad.
But yeah, like Pokemon Sleep, like I just don't think it's made for adults who already have alarm set and like a sleep schedule.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, that thing falls off my bed so many times, and like how accurately does it really? Like, because I've had many nights where like I put it there, and then my cat will like kick it, and then it won't track anything, and then then I'd be like out on a day. I know there's people that enjoy it, which is more power to them. I just like.
Well,
I'd rather just play one of the games.
Well, if Leon or Louis kicks it off, all you got to do is buy premium, and then when you buy the premium, then you can input your hours that you miss. so that's the solution.
Microtransaction.
That's the solution. Just give them $25 or whatever it is, and that won't be a problem anymore. Oh my god, I played that game for a little while. Oof, yikes! I played that game when I went through my initial Diablo phase, and I do like Diablo 4, but I think I haven't played it in a second. But all of the YouTube stuff that's come out on it has said that they've really messed it up, and I really don't know how. But that's a side note. I have not played Diablo in a minute.
But I think Pokemon Sleep is good. I just don't think that it's for me, and that's okay. I think that's what people need to realize with some of this stuff. Is like not every game has to be fun, and that should be fun. Like Pokemon Smile was not made for 95% of people who would listen to this podcast.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
And by the way, I live decently close to a train track, so if our listeners hear a train, that's why. It's just the comings and goings of commerce through our little town.
That train's going to Galar.
Yeah, it is. It is going to Galar from Kalos.
Now from Unova. You live in the Unovan region.
I do live in the Unova region.
Fun fact.
Don't
playing Pokemon White.
Try not to dox me.
Since I'm playing Pokemon White. Fun fact. The Unovan region was based off of New York. Mm-hmm. That's it. So everyone's like, Unova region's based off America. It is, which is a lot of really good themes in there as well. But and that's also the Washer.
It's New York.
It's based on New York because you can see the 3 islands of New York if you really look at the map. Which is pretty cool.
Kind of like how Galar is Great Britain upside down.
Yes. So it's like they take creative liberties with real life stuff.
So it needless to say, we both think that Sleep has a place, but it's not really our favorite.
No, and I probably should engage more with it. I just don't.
I probably should too, as somebody who likes Pokemon. It's just another one of those things. It's like another thing to check and do, and in a busy life.
There's only so many side things you can get involved with.
Exactly.
Like, that's what I think. Like no one's like, man, I really should play more Pokemon Stadium. Like, no one's thinking that. But everyone has their side game that they like, and that's fine. If you're a dedicated Pokemon Sleep player, that's your thing, that's awesome for you.
No, there are people that love it, and it is. I mean, at the end of the day, it is much deeper than I thought it would be. So if you're into Sleep, you do have quite a bit of content in there that you can use to fill some time and to have fun and to find and min-max, because there is min-maxing in that game, which I cannot believe. But there is min-maxing in that game. So if you're into that and you're a mobile game person, then great. It's just not really my cup of tea.
Great.
All right. So let's talk a quick second about Pokemon Go. Let me get my article up here. So this is off Pokemon.com. Candy, costumes, and more in the Pokemon Go Halloween 2023 Part 2 event. So Pokemon Go already had their Part 1 event, and Through October 31st, it says, at 8 p.m. local time, trainers will be haunted by costumed Pokemon. While many of these Pokemon in costumes have appeared in past Halloween events, Pikachu and Gengar, wow, geez, who imagine that, Pikachu and Gengar. Pikachu and Gengar are debuting their Tricks and Treats costumes. It will be Lavender Town music in the game, which sounds really cool. Um,
Yes. All the kids are gonna get all the kids are gonna get hypnotized like they did in the 1990s.
yes, and we will all be stuck in the big tower. What's the tower called in Lavender Town?
I think it's just called.
Lavender. Is it just called Lavender Tower?
That's,
I don't remember. But look that up while I read this.
yeah, now I gotta look this up.
So there will be bonus events from Part 1 that will continue. You'll get additional candy for catching Pokemon with nice, great, and excellent throws. There'll be additional XL candy for catching Pokemon with those nice, great, and excellent throws. Costumed Pokemon will have a chance to give additional candy when caught. And on October 31st, which is Halloween, costumed Pokemon will have a chance to give rare candy or rare XL candy when caught. So get out there on trick or treat on Halloween and play Pokemon Go. Some of the Pokemon that will appear more frequently during the event: Pikachu wearing a Tricks and Treats costume, Vulpix wearing a spooky festival costume, Gengar wearing a Tricks and Treats costume, and then a bunch of ghost types and dark types: Murkrow, Misdreavus, Sableye, Piplup wearing a Halloween costume, Drifloon, Yamask, Zorua, Fennekin, Phantump, Pumpkaboo, and Noibat. So there'll also be some different timed research involved. And you can learn more about Spiritomb and its 108 spirits to earn encounters with Spiritomb and other ghost-type Pokemon, which means you're not going to get Spiritomb. Because you have to do a lot to get it. No, Spiritomb is always hard to get. It doesn't matter what game you play. I've never gotten Spiritomb.
Well, so I need to get. So we need to work on getting Spiritomb and Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, because that's like going to be the only way to get it, and reliably.
You could get it in Go at this event. You could get it.
That's true. You can.
If you get lucky. Real quick, Mega Raids is Mega Bayonet. 5-star raid Darkrai. 3-star raids Gengar wearing a costume, and 1-star is Ghastly, Misdreavus, and Phantump. So are you going to play any Pokemon Go for Halloween?
Well,
Or what do you think of the Halloween events? I think it's just through Halloween. I think it's just October 31st. So you're going to have to do it Tuesday night.
Well, have to give out candy to the kids on Tuesday.
Well, but you could have your Pokemon Go open. You could put a lure down. Do you have a stop near you? You don't, probably.
I don't. I might. Tomorrow after work, I might go down to the location that we went and played that one time for Go Fest.
Mm-hmm.
I might go over there and do a couple of the routes and try to play that a little bit. I'd like to do it. I mean, I've played in the past couple of years as ones, and they've been all right. But
okay, I wanted to check real quick. Now, since we're talking about Go, I wanted to check real quick and see if I have any routes in Wapak, because I don't. Oh, wait a minute. It's asking me to. Maybe I need to sign in, but I wanted to see if there were even any routes here. Okay, it's signing me in. I'm just curious.
While you're looking that up, fun fact.
No, there's no routes still where I live.
This is Lavender Town music in Pokemon Go. Have you heard about the Lavender Town syndrome that happened in Japan?
No.
Because of Lavender Town. So it was this big thing. Lavender Town had a distinct and for those of you who do not remember, you need to go on YouTube and find or play the game and listen to the Lavender Town music because it's awful. And it's called the Lavender Town tone because it's just like a little tone like eerie Pokemon or Game Boy Color sound. And the sound and this is mainly rumors, but there was a correlation between suicides between the ages of 7 and 12.
Jeez.
And people who played this game and got to this tone. Because, which I wasn't a part of, but apparently it was very common for people to play Game Boy Color or Game Boy with headphones in.
Right. Yeah.
That was like a common thing to do.
Yep.
And apparently it says, due to Lavender Tone, which is the song, at least 200 children supposedly committed suicide, and many more developed illnesses and afflictions. The children who committed suicide usually did so by hanging or jumping from heights. Those who did not acted irrationally, complained of severe headaches, after listening to the Lavender Towns theme.
That's so
That,
weird. So
that
there
is
was
from
it affected people like neurologically.
yes. Apparently,
Wow.
that's the theory.
Are we talking about Lavender Town's song when you walk in the town?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
And
That sound.
the source of this is from creepypasta.fandom.com, but it's pretty wild. So that
Jeez.
when I hear like, oh yeah, Pokemon Go has the Lavender Town music, it's like, oh, it's not the Lavender Tone because they like patched that after.
So I probably never heard that then.
I don't think it was in the English release because you got to think the English release was 1998, right?
Yeah, something 99, 98, yeah,
And
something.
the original Red and Green were, oh no, was it Blue and Green?
It was red. It was red and green, I think.
I think it was Red and Green. The original Red and Green came out in Japan in 1996. So.
That makes sense. Okay, well, enjoy your Halloween event, Pokemon Go. Yeah, maybe I'll try to do a little bit of it. Nothing really like super exciting for me there, but I mean, I do like Ghost type Pokemon, so that's there. Okay, let's move on to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which is the games that this podcast will generally be mostly about as we continue to go. First thing I want to speak to here is the Halloween outbreaks. So let me get there. So this was on October 27th on Pokemon.com. Catch Drifloon, Phantom, Mimikyu, and Greavard in mass outbreaks. Ghost-type Pokemon that may have the crafty mark are on the prowl in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So it looks like until Tuesday, October 31st, so until basically 8 p.m. on Halloween, mass outbreaks of Drifloon, Phantom, Mimikyu, and Greavard will be appearing throughout Paldea and Kitakami. Lucky trainers are in for a frightful festive treat. Pokemon encountered in these mass outbreaks are more likely to have the crafty mark. Do you play mass outbreaks much? Because I really don't too much.
So this was a feature that was introduced in Legends Arceus.
That's
with
right.
the mass outbreaks.
Yeah.
And
I played him in that game.
Well, because they mattered. Like I don't think like they really matter in Scarlet and Violet. Because if you're looking for a distinct Pokemon for the decks, you found it in that. People just like to collect the different marks from the different events, which is cool. It's like, oh yeah, like this Pokemon I got at this specific event because it has this specific mark. And if I'm not mistaken, that mark follows the Pokemon.
It stays on there. Yeah, there are a lot of people that do mark collecting. It is something some people do that like. I mean, it's kind of associated with like shiny hunting. Like, I think outbreaks are one of the best ways to shiny hunt, if not the best way to shiny hunt in Scarlet and Violet. And so,
I didn't know that.
And so if you're not really a shiny hunter, then it probably doesn't mean too much to you. Or if you're not a mark hunter, then okay, maybe you really like Greavard, or you really like Phantom or something. Then it would be cool. I mean, they're fun. If I run into one, I'll try to do like a quick catch chain, or I'll try to do R1 it and go beat a bunch of them and see if I can't get a shiny one to spawn in a couple minutes. But other than that, I probably won't be messing too much with this.
Now, if this was the way they introduced new Pokemon in the game, that would be different. So if it's like, oh, there's a mass outbreak in Cyndaquils, it's like,
Yeah. We're all that. And yeah, I mean that would almost be like, and I think shout out to my favorite Pokemon podcast, PKMNcast, Steve in the group there. But I think they spoke about this a while back, and I think they had said that this would be almost akin to like a community day in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Like, if you would do a mass outbreak of a new mon like Cyndaquil, everybody would be doing it at once, and everybody would be sharing their shinies. It would be literally the equivalent of a community day, but in Pokemon Scarlet. And I think that sounds pretty cool.
I think it does too.
Especially co-op, because you can play together in the Union Circle.
Well, that's the whole point with the raids, though. So like certain starters and certain other Pokemon, like Samurott and Typhlosion, were put into raids initially.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Hisuian Pokemon too.
Yeah.
Put into raids. So that was the way people got
the big raids, like the 6-star raids or the 7-star raids.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Which someday we're gonna have to talk about raids.
But that is what I think it should be for. The marks are cool. Shiny hunting, sure. I would love a shiny Greavard, but
right. All right, and then in Scarlet and Violet here, kind of our last news piece there is Miss Magius. So 5-star Terra Raid Miss Magius says things are getting frightfully festive so basically until the 31st again. All this ends at the same time, 5 p.m. PST on Halloween. These Miss Magius will have Ghost as their Terra type, so you're getting kind of a same type Terra there. There'll be 5-star. And let's see, you can earn some spectacular rewards, including lots of rare candies. So apparently, the Miss Magius reward is a lot of rare candies. So, what do you think of these kind of periodic raids that they do? Do you think it's helps to keep people in? I like the idea that it's a 5-star. I think it's important that they put out some easier raids every once in a while with cool Pokemon around the 7-star raids, because I think some folks don't like the 7-star raids because they're so difficult, especially if they don't have a friend group that they can coordinate with, and they're trying to go solo with randoms, and it's just difficult. So I like that they're doing this one as a 5-star.
Yeah, I mean, the 5-star Miss Magius is cool. I like Miss Magius, I do. I think they can pick cooler Pokemon though. Like,
I like Miss Magius. I've always liked the witch hat. Like
I like Miss Magius a lot, but like, I don't know, like.
But they put all the good ones behind 7 stars. And so now it's like
Hisuian Typhlosion.
Right. But awesome. but again, they had that, but we had it in 7 stars. And the 7-star raids require you to build a competitive Pokemon with the correct Terra type and correct EVs and moves to defeat it. And you need a team that understands what's going on. I mean, you get the Iron Hands belly drummers that go everywhere, and it's like, okay, if they're not strong against the mon, they're just going to get knocked out and you lose the raid. I have had multiple times when I've tried to play the 7-star raids to get them on, and I end up kind of giving up after. I mean, I think it's a great thing as long as you maybe have a couple people to play with, because the 7-star raids just get they get frustrating, especially if you're not someone that plays a lot and you don't have a lot of candies or mints or Terra shards, and now somebody says, oh, go build a perfect whatever with this IV and these EVs and this item and whatever.
Right.
It's like, okay. So that's why people go in with Pokemon that aren't optimal, because they're like, I really don't have time. I have this one thing built. It's an Iron Hands. And so I'm going to go in and I'm going to try, even if it's weak, because they just don't have the time or resources to be able to. So I don't know. I guess I have a mixed bag on 7-star raids. So I guess I'm glad that they're doing this as a 5-star raid.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to make it a lot more casual friendly,
exactly.
Which I think raid events mostly should be. The Mewtwo thing I get, but like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, again, if you have a community and you can build Pokemon as a team and you go in together, 7-star raids are awesome. Great experience. But if you're going in by yourself, it can be very, very frustrating, especially Mewtwo. I mean, I tell you right now, I didn't complete Mewtwo. Just because I really didn't have anybody to play with specifically. We would have only had 2, and you need 4, and it's so difficult. So, I don't know. I think maybe if I devote more time to it, I could, but just a lot. So I'm glad it's 5-star. And rare candies are always good, especially for players that are listening that are kind of casual and don't play a lot. Rare candy is a great reward because it's just a level up, right? So it's always good if you have if you're sitting around at home and you've got something on YouTube and you're watching something and you're not doing anything, just pull out them on, do these Mixed Magius raids, and just load up on rare candies, because you'll probably need them someday, and then you'll have a lot. So.
And rare candies gets really, really useful when you have higher levels as well, because even the extra large candies, it takes quite a few to level Pokemon quickly. Whereas if you have a bunch of rare candies, it's a lot quicker to level up.
Yep, exactly. All right, so that's some of the Scarlet and Violet news. One last thing I want to do on the news section, and then we'll take a quick break. I wanted to talk a little bit about, so there's a regional this weekend, and I believe that regional is in Toronto, if I'm thinking correctly. And I wanted to comment on the top 12 Pokemon that we saw on day 2. Now, it was so funny. I saw a tweet today. And so in day 1, 2 of the Ogerpons were in the top 12. It was the Fire Ogerpon and the Water Ogerpon. And I saw a tweet today that said, nice, it was fun while it lasted, Ogerpon, or something. Because day 2 Day 2 does not include Ogerpon in the top 12, which means that it was not as successful maybe as some people might have thought. So in Day 2, the top Pokemon, again, it's kind of boring actually. There's not a lot of new stuff. I mean, it's Urshifu, Iron Hands, Fluttermane, Rillaboom, Arcanine, Hisuian Arcanine, Landorus. We've got Chien-Pao and Amoonguss. So again, it's not. There's nothing new, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so I think it's kind of funny that we everybody. I think even Wolfie made a video about Ogerpon. Everybody's talking about Ogerpon, and then it's not even the top 12 in the Day 2 teams in the regional. So I do think Ogerpon is strong, but from what I've seen in my competitive games, there are still a lot of type weaknesses there, and it's still not as bulky as a lot of things, because you're not training it for bulk, right? You're training it to be an attacking mon. So if you don't have a way to keep other Pokemon off of it, like if you're running it with an Amoonguss with Rage Powder or something like that, then maybe. But if you can't keep things off of it, you're gonna tear a water, and then I'm gonna hit you with my Iron Hands. I'm gonna, I'm gonna use an electric type move, and you're gonna KO. So at the end of the day, yes, it's cool. It's got a neat thing in the meta. The other thing I think it struggles with is like when you go water or fire, you remove the opportunity to use another item. So you have a Pokemon that's very predictable because it's like, okay, I know this thing's gonna tear. Like I know it's open team sheet and everything. I get it, but it's like at least in open team sheet, they know my Terastallization type, but I also have an item. But with Ogerpon, I don't have an item. I have my Terra type, and that's it, right? And so you don't have that ability to do some different things. So I can understand maybe why it wasn't in top 12. Maybe people will figure it out. Maybe it'll get there. But I thought that was very interesting today. So I guess I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I thought it was interesting to see that between the 2 days.
Well, the only thing with Ogerpon, and I watched Wolfie's video on it, and I agree, it is one of the highest skill ceiling Pokemon that there is, because there's so many options. Because here's what I ran into. So the only thing is with the grass Terra type, you can have an item. That's the only one.
The grass. Yes, only the grass.
But grass is a garbage offensive typing. So and I can't remember the boost you get in grass.
The only thing that makes it better, a little bit okay right now, is because Urshifu is so popular.
Well, yeah, the water type.
But that's really the only reason. Let me look up. I'll go ahead and continue.
My preferred one is the fire one, because for a couple of reasons. Well, number one, it gets Mold Breaker. The fire one does.
Yes.
So Mold Breaker is amazing for situations like
because it breaks the mold.
Because it breaks the mold. Yeah, it breaks the mold because of Heatran. Right?
Will you explain to our listeners what breaking the mold is?
So like Mold Breaker ignores abilities in certain cases. So like for example, a good use case for Mold Breaker Ogerpon is if you want to hit a Grass Terra Heatran with a fire. What's the signature move called again?
Flame Body. Right? Or no, it's not Flame Body. You talking about for Heatran?
Well, I'm talking about for Ogerpon. Signature move.
Iron Cudgel. Yeah.
Iron Cudgel. So the fire type Iron Cudgel, if it's
Ivy Cudgel.
Ivy Cudgel. Okay. Ivy Cudgel. If you use that as a fire type move against Terra Grass Heatran, which is very common because it has Flame Body. So you can't hit it with a fire type move, but if you have Mold Breaker, it hits. But here's the problem: is again, it's a very high skill ceiling Pokemon because everyone's going to anticipate that you're going to Terra your Ogerpon. And the problem is, the Ogerpon, like you said, is not very bulky. It takes one hit.
Yeah, just to give you a sense, its base defense is 84, and its base special defense is 96. So
it's enough to live one.
Yeah, barely.
Of something.
Barely.
Neutrally. Like, if it's a neutral hit, it's enough to take one.
Yep.
So if you go in and commit to Terra on that, which is amazing because you get a boost to attack and whatnot. Like that is a very positive engagement, but you lose Mold Breaker. So that exact engagement you can't do anymore, and you get locked in because you lose your ability. And most of the abilities are better. Like the embodiment aspect is usually better than the other ones anyway. Mold Breaker is a specific one that actually matters in certain situations. Mm-hmm. So I think it's hard because if you use that a regional, it gets a lot of really good moves. It gets Follow Me. It gets some really weird support moves.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's talking about how amazing that is. But in my opinion, support moves tend to be only good on defensive Pokemon. And this is not a defensive Pokemon.
Right. You're not going to sit there and click Follow Me on a terrestrialized Ogerpon. Like
I'm not getting Follow Me.
Otherwise, you're losing because you're getting hit twice. Right? I mean, again, it only lives once. So
and it's not fast enough either. Mm-hmm. So like, it's not fast enough to outspeed a lot of the meta right now.
Yeah, it's base 110. So
because what's Fluttermane's base speed?
It's higher than
135.
It's higher than 110. I can tell you that much. Fluttermane.
It's 135.
It's 135. Yep.
If you don't have Tailwind up, you're getting outspeed by the offensive pressures in the meta.
Yep, you definitely are. Let me go to Urshifu real quick.
But
Urshifu's a little bit slower.
Again, if you use the Fire Ogerpon, a resisted hit does a lot of damage. So that's the only thing, is it's not an amazing Pokemon because it's not bulky enough.
Mm-hmm. It's
not fast enough.
Mm-hmm. It's not bulky enough. It's not fast enough. And like you've been saying, I know exactly what you're gonna do. There is zero question. When I see an Ogerpon, I know exactly what's happening. So if, as a strategist in this, and that's what this is, a strategy turn-based game, I can decide what I'm going to do very easily because I know exactly what move you're going to make. You're not going to leave that thing out there unterrestrialized. You're not just going to sit out there with no defenses and an okay speed and go, well, I'm just going to not terrestrialize. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I mean...
And everyone's like, well, it has Spiky Shield.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So any special attacking Pokemon.
Yeah.
Irrelevant. And for those that is relevant for, it's gonna take fake out damage. Realistically. Mm-hmm. So it's really not doing a lot of damage. It's better than Protect, sure. But everyone's like, well, it gets Spiky Shield, it gets Ivy Cudgel that changes typing, it gets Follow Me, it gets all these other coverage moves.
It does, yeah.
It gets Horn Leech as well.
Horn Leech.
The problem is,
I think Horn Leech. This might be a weird. I think Horn Leech is its best move, other than the Ivy Cudgel.
It is its best move.
Because why would you? I would much rather run Horn Leech than Spiky Shield. Because if I run Spiky Shield, I'm gonna run Spiky Shield too. But then you start to ask, but Horn Leech, yeah, I might get hit, but Horn Leech, I'm gonna take HP back, and I'm gonna do a lot of damage because it's stab. But what I start to get into problems with this Pokemon is what do you leave out? Because you've been mentioning Follow Me, Spiky Shield, Horn Leech, it knows Wood Hammer, it's got Ivy Cudgel, it has Synthesis, so some people might want the healing, right? There's a lot of things that it does. And so what are you doing? It also gets Helping Hand, which I've seen on some of them. Helping Hand is a really good move. So what do you, or Knockoff? I mean, Knockoff could be a good move too. So what are you doing, I guess? And if you're being offensive, you have to say, I'm either not running Follow Me, Helping Hand, or something. And so at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, but your point is valid. Why would I ever run a support Ogerpon? It makes no sense. So I'm leaving out one of those moves somewhere.
My best engagement with an Ogerpon so far has been I fire Terra, and I have a gigantic attack boost. I'm still at full HP because you have to protect it. And you have to really be careful when you send it in. Mm-hmm. And then I'm tailwinded, and my opponent hasn't. So now I'm faster, which again is very niche. And then if I'm finally in that position, I can click an attack like Horn Leech, to where if I get attacked and I live one, because Ogerpon will live one of a neutral hit. Mm-hmm. I Horn Leech, I get majority of that back to where I'm living another one. Mm-hmm. On red HP.
Right.
That's the best case scenario. Whereas you literally could just run an Iron Hands that will take a lot of hits and deal a lot of damage and have Fake Out and have a lot of these really good options. Or you can run other Pokemon that are a lot more bulkier and offensive than that.
And
Like that's why it's not being used.
and offer more strategic variability.
And here's the worst part about Ogerpon is that if you don't terrestrialize it, it's infinitely worse.
Yeah, it's bad.
So that's the thing as well. Because if I see Ogerpon and they bring over Ogerpon, I know it's not going to be that much of a threat unless it's terrestrialized. And if it's terrestrialized, I know what type it's going to be.
Right. That's
so
what I
this
mean.
whole
It's
thing of everyone
it's predictable.
like, oh, like what are they going to terrestrialize into? Dies immediately when I see Ogerpon. I know
yeah, especially if because let's be honest, 99 probably 90% of players will never go to a regional, right? So 90% of players are playing on the ladder where it's closed team sheet. So one of the biggest benefits of closed team sheet is they don't know what my Terra type is. And but if I'm on the ladder, like you say, and I see an Ogerpon, I know exactly what they're doing. I know their whole strategy. Well. I know their whole strat. Yeah, even on the preview screen, I know exactly what's happening. So at the end of the day, is it cool? Yes. Is it unique? Yes. I like it when they add new cool mechanics. I think it's great what they did. I think it's cool. I think it's fun. But at the end of the day, when I see one of these things, I know what's happening. Also, I mean, one of the biggest problems I always have is Heatran. And if I see a Heatran and an Ogerpon on the same team, I am no longer scared of that Heatran. Because, like, you know me, I run Trick Room, I like to run Torkoal, right? Torkoal's very weak against Heatran. I've got to work around Heatran a lot in what I do. But if I see an Ogerpon and a Heatran on the same team, normally when I see Heatran, I have to worry about, okay, what's its Terra? It's probably going to Terra Fairy or something. Okay, how am I going to get around that? But when I see an Ogerpon, I'm like, okay, I know it's fire. I'm just going to use a ground type move. Like, I don't worry near as much about it because I know they're going to terrestrialize the Ogerpon. Like, they're going to have to. And if they don't terrestrialize the Ogerpon and they choose to terrestrialize the Heatran, I'll just knock the dang Ogerpon out in one move, and then I'll deal with the Heatran with the 3 mons I've got left at the end of the game. So I think it just makes your team, it makes the other Pokemon on your team weaker because I know you're going to try to terrestrialize the Ogerpon. So now I'm not as worried anymore.
And it's not fast, and it's not slow.
Exactly. It's not good on Trick Room or yeah, exactly.
So like if you Trick Room, it's worse because it's gonna be, you know, it's not gonna be slow enough. Even if you have a negative nature and a 0 IV speed, it's still too fast to be good on a Trick Room team. And it's never gonna be fast enough to be the best on a Tailwinding team. Mm-hmm. So I don't even know what you do with it, but it does do an immense amount of damage if you set it up correctly. So
exactly.
That's the only thing with Ogerpon.
You have to. Yeah, exactly.
It's all about positioning, and positioning is harder in a regional. It's hard. It's a lot harder. It's a lot easier on the ladder to position your Pokemon. It's a lot harder to do so on regionals because they have your team in front of you.
If I'm in a best of 3, it's a weakness for me to have Ogerpon on my team, in my opinion, because like there's no hiding anything. There's nothing to hide, and they know exactly.
If someone finds the set that works and you see it, that's when I think Ogerpon's going to win a regional this year. I really do, but it's going to win it once because someone's going to find a set that works so well on a particular team that runs wild, and then that's it. And then you won't see it at Worlds next year. You won't see it anywhere else. Mm-hmm. That's when you'll see it, and people will use it, but it's not going to top anymore than that.
The only reason I don't think the fire one's going to win is because of Heatran. I always bring up Heatran, but like Heatran is in the top 12, Flame Body. I think the water one will win a regional if any of them do, in my opinion. I think the water absorb is really good against like Urshifu, who's number 1 in the Pokemon that are used right now. So like I don't know. I think the water one is the one that I think would do best. The rock one is bad. There's not a use case. I mean, I'm gonna laugh when somebody wins a regional with the rock one and they find like the one random setup.
Maybe there's a set. But I don't know. Again, that's why it's a really high school swinging Pokemon because it has everything.
Right.
It has everything going for it besides its stats. So what are you gonna do to make it good? And I think that's why I like it a lot. So much. Because there's so many options.
Here it comes. Fire Ogerpon and oh geez, I can't think of the name. What's the water type that won Worlds that's water ground and has the water absorb that everybody can't stand that wins Worlds all the time? Gastrodon.
Oh, Gastrodon.
So,
Okay.
I mean, it's like, okay, Heart Flame, or the Fire one, and Gastrodon. It's like, okay, we suck up all the water. You're not going to hit my water type moves. It's like, okay, but it's also grass type, so it doesn't, it's not super effective. So
you can slide it in a lot of teams. That's what's cool about it. But that's kind of my final say on Ogerpon is Ogerpon, keep team building with it, because if you're the one who figures out how to make it good, you're going to win the regional. Yeah. So that's what's going to happen.
And I will enjoy knocking you out on the ladder in 2 hits. Okay, we're going to take a quick break real quick, and then we'll be right back with the last kind of pieces of the podcast. So we will be right back. And we are back from our break. So normally in this podcast, around this time of the podcast, we'll do a kind of Brandon and Logan's minute, hot take type situation where we'll talk about something that we just kind of want to talk about that day. But because we did our intro section this podcast, because it's our first one, we are going to skip over that. But we're always going to do a Pokemon of the day, and here's how we're going to do that. The day of the podcast, I'm just going to go to Pokemon.com. I'm going to scroll down to the featured Mon, and whatever Pokemon.com randomly gives us, that's the Pokemon we're going to talk about that day. And today, our Pokemon happens to be Crabominable. So Crabominable gets to be the Pokemon of the day. Crabominable, Pokédex number 740. It's a fighting ice type. It's the woolly crab Pokemon. It's about 5 feet 7 inch. That's a tall crab. 5 feet 7 inch tall crab, weighs almost 400 pounds. It has the abilities Hyper Cutter, Iron Fist, and its hidden ability is Anger Point, which raises the ability's attack to its maximum level when a move targeting it receives a critical hit. So if you crit Crabominable, it gets a +6 in attack. Okay.
Yep.
So, before I go further, Crabominable. You played this generation first. What did you think of Crabominable when you first rolled up on it? With Gen 7, right?
Gen 7. My first run through was in Pokemon Sun, and I used a Crabominable on my team through the game. So for those of you who played this game, you know that Crabrawler is awesome. Brawler, its pre-evolution is so cool. It's a boxing crab. It's really good design. Love it. What sucks about Crabrawler, though, is that now I don't know if they changed it in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I don't think they did. But in the original Sun and Moon, you had to. The only way to evolve this Pokemon is to take it to Mount what's it called? Mount Lanakila, I think. Yeah.
Let me go find that.
It evolves from Crabrawler when leveled up at Mount Lanakila or when exposed to an Ice Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think the Ice Stone option was in Sun and Moon. It was in Sun and Moon, but I could be wrong. But even so, when you're playing through a first generation, you don't know how Pokemon evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to not look things up as much as possible and just experience it the way that it was meant to be experienced.
Mm-hmm.
I used a Crabrawler the entire playthrough, and just so for context,
you never evolved it.
And I don't think Brandon, did you play Gen 7 or not?
Not all the way through.
Okay, so in Gen 7, Mount Lanakila is on the last island, which is basically the equivalent of the Victory Road of the game. So I evolved, and I was so excited to figure out what this thing evolved into, because I was thinking of Crawdaunt and Kingler, and I was like, okay, what's this one? And then it's this. Not at all what I expected at all.
No.
It's grown on me.
It almost looks like a monkey more than it does a crab.
It's grown on me, but I was so disappointed at the time. I was like, really? This is it? Because, it was level 50-something, hasn't evolved, and I leveled it up in Mount Lanakila, and it evolved. And that's what it was.
Did you know, when it evolved in Mount Lanakila, did you say, oh, that must be, I must have to level it up here? Or did you not realize what happened at all when it happened?
I have no idea. Which is part of the fun, but, still, it was pretty wild.
So a couple more things so let me tell you, I like this Pokemon a lot. I have always wanted to find a spot. Those of you that are new here, you'll see in the future, I am a big fan of Trick Room. Okay? I'm a huge Trick Room guy. The speed stat is 43 base. So I've always wanted to try to find a place in a Trick Room team for Crabominable. The attack stat is 132. The HP stat's 97. The problem, it's so squishy. Defense 77, special defense 67. So it's never been like if I'm going to use an ice type in a Trick Room team, I'm going to use Glastrier or I'm going to use Mamoswine or something like that. I've always wanted, maybe I'll do that on this channel when I'm streaming sometime. I'll build a Crabominable on stream and we'll just play with it just for fun. But always wanted to do that with Crabominable. A couple more things. Like I said, its base stat total's 478, so not terribly high. Best stats, its attack stat 132. It's very much just physical attack. Its typing is very interesting, fighting ice. But the unfortunate thing is it gives a lot of weaknesses. It's weak to fire, fighting, flying, psychic, steel, and fairy. So it's got a bunch of weaknesses because you put those two relatively weak types together. I mean, fighting has a lot of weaknesses. Ice has a lot of weaknesses. Yeah, so I don't know if you want to comment on that, but it's squishy and it's got a lot of weaknesses.
You don't like a slow glass cannon. That's what in a playthrough, it doesn't really matter. But competitively, yeah.
Now I will say, I always wanted. Yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I guess if I had it in Trick Room and I trained it for attack and I got Trick Room off and I could close combat with that attack stat, it wouldn't be terrible, but it would also get killed the next turn. So, as far as some other things. Oh, did you have something else to mention about Crabominable?
Oh no. I think what we'll do is we'll cap it off with me reading through the Pokédex entries to this Pokemon.
Sure.
It has interesting ones.
And then I have a little bit of trivia about it too. A couple interesting trivia points. So I don't know. Do you want me to do that first, and then you close it?
Go and do it.
So Crabominable is the only ice type Pokemon introduced in Gen 7. Outside of regional forms. So it's the only new ice type introduced in Gen 7, which I think is really interesting that you would have went through that whole game and not met a new ice type at all until you got to the end. No other Pokemon has the same type combo. So Crabominable is the only fighting ice type. Probably a good thing, because that's a really weak typing. It's the only Pokemon with a base stat total of 478, so it has a unique base stat total. Let's see here. Crabominable is the only ice type to have an insectoid body. All the other none of the ice types have that body type. Let's see. Yep, and that's about it. Crabominable is a combination of crab and abominable snowman. so that's some Bulbapedia trivia. And why don't you round us out on Crabominable with some of the Pokédex entries?
Yeah, so the whole theme of Gen 7 was regional variation, because that was the first generation that had regional variants. So the Sun one I particularly like. So I have Pokédex entries from Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and the Scarlet and Violet games. Mm-hmm. That's the only games that Crabominable was in. So the Sun entry is it aimed for the top, but got lost and ended up on a snowy mountain. Being forced to endure the cold, this Pokemon evolved and grew fur. So it's a regional so it adapted to its environment. That's the idea. Is why this Pokemon became what it is.
Got it.
The Moon Pokédex entry is it just throws punches indiscriminately. In times of desperation, it can lop off its own pincers and fire them like rockets.
Oh boy! That would have been cool if they gave it a move like a signature move where that happened. It doesn't have a move like that, right?
Right.
That would have been interesting. But I think if you would have had to give up like half your HP or something, you'd have to design it where because it's cutting off its own. Like it would almost be like you'd have to do it and then you'd lose two attack stages or something, right? Because you like.
Yeah, like something like that. Like Clanger or Scale. But anyway, Ultra Sun, it stores coldness in its pincers and pummels its foes. It can even smash thick walls of ice to bits. Mm-hmm. Ultra Moon, before it stops to think, it just starts pummeling. There are records of it turning back avalanches with a fury of punches.
Turning back avalanches. Okay, that's a little extreme.
Now we're in Gen 9, right?
Okay, I'm ready.
Scarlet.
Oh.
The
Okay,
the
sorry. I just saw.
detached
Go
the
ahead.
detached pincers of these Pokemon are delicious. Some trainers bring Lechonk into the mountains just to search for them.
Okay, first of all, I'm picturing a little Lechonk finding a 5 foot tall, 400 pound ice crab that can shoot its pincers at it. I don't think Lechonk would be very brave in that situation.
I don't think so either. But the last one is in Violet. Though its punches are strong, or sorry, though its punches are powerful, this Pokemon's movements are sluggish. It blows ice bubbles from its mouth to immobilize its opponents.
So now it cuts off its own hands and blows bubbles.
Yes,
That is
that is the story of Carbuncle.
abominable. I love the Mon. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody who listened to this first podcast or watched it. We are very excited to start the channel. We are going to have more content. I'm going to be doing a lot of streaming. And we look forward to continuing to meet you all and speak with you in the future. So this is episode 1 of the Elite 2 podcast, and we are so happy to be here. Thanks so much for listening.
Signing off.
Bye-bye.